here's Alex from Blacksheep IT Consulting with a quick overview of the Siebel 25.8 changes and features and enhancements in Siebel Test Automation. So there are a few changes which are quite interesting and will affect how you use test automation if you are on Siebel 25.8 or higher. So let's start with looking at the test execution. So you can already see there's a test execution dashboard, so we'll visit that later, but there's the my test execution view, which is probably the best to start. So here you create your test execution records, which are then, well, executed in batch either by Jenkins through DISA or through Jenkins in DISA or DISA standalone, which is also quite an interesting option if you don't want to install Jenkins. A while ago, Oracle made it possible to just run DISA from command line, or better to say, the respective Java program that resides in DISA. Okay, but I digress. So what's new here is, well, you can already see here there's a new field, profile name, and there you can obviously pick a test execution profile. There's also a new button, failed test results. So you will see this when you are on 25.8 and higher. So if I create a new test execution, I see that an example profile is populated here because I selected that to be the default profile. So the system looks for a default profile and uses that. And of course, the usual fields have to be filled in. So you have to select your master suite and your application version. But if you scroll down, after saving that initial record, then you see that the parameters list, so many things happened. The profile has populated this parameters list, so there's a custom parameter, and there are lots of parameters from the actual profile. So many of them are related to Siebel mobile applications. We'll explain that in a second. And one of them is the default application URL, which you can also see populated right here. So that is a huge time saver. You don't have to go here and copy paste your URL. It's just taken from the parameter set. And so the question is, where do you define these parameters and profile? And of course, there's a new view, test execution profile. I've created one profile so far, example profile, and I marked it as default profile. So that's why it's selected when you create a new test execution. So it always picks the default profile, but you can, just for the sake of demo, you can create any number of profiles. So, and once you save the initial record, it will pull the system defaults for these system parameters. So these values here. It will always pull these values even if you have no profile or no default profile. So, and of course in a profile, you can override these. So for example, I want this profile to be used with testing in Edge. So I have some language packs installed, so that's why you see multiple lines here. And the database is Oracle, of course. And here's the default application URL, which you probably fill in by copy pasting. And there's also default REST URI if you do REST testing. This one's an important parameter, import test step results. Defaults to yes, to import the test step level results. So that means a lot of data is going to be imported in your database when your test execution finishes. And that is always on unless you set it to, well, obviously no. Then still you will have the automated test pass import, but not test step level results, which is basically each test step and its result. The same as you see in the HTML reports, but it's now in your database, so for better analysis. The parallel and report level is just informational. You cannot kind of set the execution to parallel here, you have to set it at runtime, but you can keep a record here because that will also make it to the information. And what else is interesting? Well, all of these settings here, like Tomcat Apache and Web Server OS, they go into the test pass information. And the iOS stuff is really for Siebel Mobile testing. And you can add to the profile, you can add any number of custom parameters. So I have one here, for example, your environment, to pick it up in the test script as a variable. That works also quite well. There's also reset defaults in case you want to reset to the system defaults. So yeah, that's a very good addition to test execution, makes creating your profiles, your test execution records even faster. And of course, in the REST API, there's also a new field for the profile. So if we go back to that test execution, which I just created, let's finish that. So I have everything in place. And I can click Schedule Run. That will create the usual attachments, so nothing new here. And now you can run it through Jenkins or DISA standalone. And once it completed running, so we have some completed here, which are run with DISA, then you can see that the test pass XML is uploaded. So that's the test pass XML. And you might notice that create test passes is gray. So you cannot create them manually because they're actually created automatically all the time. And remember that parameter that we had, import test step results. That's set to yes. So that's why create test passes manually is not available. All the data has already been imported, the test passes and the test step level results. So there is a ID, test run ID, which I can use, and now can take a look at the test pass list view. And if I query for names that include that run ID, I see one test pass. For this to work, for the automated test pass import, the same as the manual, you have to have a test plan associated with your test sets. And you can see that there were two test scripts in that run, 100% covered, but 50% passed. So one basically failed. And you can see that all of this information, the database and the browser, has been filled in. So this is a very good overview. So this is the test pass record. And you can drill down, of course, and see the individual test scripts. So one passed, the other failed. You can add results manually if you want. So this is not entirely new. This was available before 25.8, but you had to create those test passes manually by clicking the button or entirely manually. And now if you go to test results, then we can still find those test passes by ID. Sorry. Let's use the test script ID. So here's the same test script all over. So this was an older run, and this was a newer run with 25.8. And you can see the test step results have been imported. So this is literally the same information you would also see on the still available HTML records, but with the benefit, of course, it's in your Siebel database, and you can, of course, analyze on top of it. You can also download the reports from here as a zip file, which is quite convenient. So this again is now the system default. So be careful when you have a lot of test executions and hundreds or thousands of steps. There will be a lot of data in your database. It's probably not your production database, so it's fine, but you still need to be aware of that fact that the test step level result import is defaulting to yes. So turn it off if you don't want this level of information, you want to stick with your HTML reports, you'd still get the automated test pass as long as you have a test plan. If you don't have a test plan, nothing of this will, of course, work. So yeah, test execution profiles, automated test plan, and test step result import as part of a batch test execution. And finally, let's take a look at the dashboards. So there's a first dashboard we can reach, which is the test script dashboard. And you can see the number of test scripts. Let's pick a prettier chart. Number of test scripts in your database, not very much. Number of data sets, master suites, and well, you can drill down on any of those. So here are my master suites. I can go back to the dashboards. So that's basically the test script dataset master suite overview. There's a little chart, number of test scripts by release. I have not specified a release, so it's pretty useless. There are some quick links, test passes, test plans, test results, test execution, and the test execution dashboard. So let's visit that one. And we can see there were 9 test runs completed in that little environment here. Nothing in the last 24 hours. Test runs last week, 5. Last month, 5. Total test results, 15. Passed, 8. 2 failed. Not executed, 5. Pending issues, 2. So pending issues means, if you drill down, you actually see what this means. It means that you have to specify an issue and comments for any failed steps. So here, for example, that one. So you could see that was a functional regression or something like that. And that probably makes the number go down on the test execution dashboard. Yeah, so now we have only 1 pending issue type. So, and there's an issue summary chart as well once you start adding the issues. So functional regression was the only one I entered, so I have a big blue blob here. And there's also filters on these dashboards for the build. If you have multiple builds or even run IDs, you can filter by run ID. Let's go back to the test scripts dashboard, go back to the test executions, navigate a little bit. And one thing on the test execution is, just find one. Yeah. Remember the rerun button, which is available to schedule a rerun of the failed steps. And now there's a new button, failed test results, which tells you, well, goes to a filtered list of the test results, where you can also enter that issue, which then shows up in the dashboard. And that's very helpful to identify quickly from a test execution any test scripts or test scripts that have actually failed. So that's available in 25.8 and later as well. And there you have it, a quick walkthrough of the new features for Siebel Test Automation. Quite exciting release for Test Automation 25.8. And if you want to learn more about Siebel Test Automation and how can help your project become more efficient during Siebel updates, do some regression testing, automate a lot more testing than you do already, check out the Siebel Hub training class. We have a new class on Siebel Test Automation dedicated, a lot of hours of video training dedicated to all aspects of modern Siebel Test Automation with Siebel 20 and higher. And of course, the content you just saw is already part of our always up-to-date Siebel CRM training. So start learning today with the Siebel Hub. Thanks very much for watching. Take care and bye-bye.